This is the Impressions Exchange Podcast. Where all topics impacting the graphic imaging and printing industry are addressed via in-depth news coverage, analysis, and timely interviews.
Hi, I'm Denise Gustafson, Editorial Director for Printing United Alliance, and the guest host for the special Printing Impressions podcast series in celebration of Women's History Month, highlighting women in the printing industry. During this series, I'll have the opportunity to talk with women from all segments of the industry about their experiences and their journey as a woman in the industry. So today it is my pleasure to welcome Nicole Katz. She's VP of E-commerce for Hemlock. So Nicole, welcome.
Happy to be here.
So to get us started, can you tell us a little bit about Hemlock and about what you do as the VP of E-commerce?
Hemlock is an incredible printing company based out of Vancouver, BC. It's actually a group of companies at this point. So it has Paper Chase Press, which is the business that my parents started in 1976. We became part of the Hemlock Group in October of 2022, as well as a display business that does large format and outdoor work, a mailing company called Hemlock Harling, and brand. Between the group of companies, Hemlock is a full scope press and bindery and fulfillment service, arguably one of the greenest printers in North America, second generation family run company. As the VP of e-commerce, it's my job to head up e-commerce sales channels for the business. So at present, we have one e-commerce sales channel, which is Paper Chase Press, soon to be more in the future. But I develop strategy, outreach, communication, marketing, creative direction, and the various workflow and supporting platforms for order management associated with the online business.
Very, very cool.
Yeah.
So because your parents had a printing business, I'm guessing that you didn't have a choice. You have ink in your veins and you had to go into printing. Is that what happened?
I definitely tried to tell myself I did have a choice. How accurate that is, I'm not sure. So it was very much a mom and pop shop. I was at the office every day after school with two working parents. And I had my first paying job there when I was 13 years old. And I just worked until I went to college. I used to work the weekend shift as a customer service rep. And then I ended up going to school. I went to Bard College and I studied photography. And then I actually got into printing, but on the photographic side. So exhibition printing for photographers. And then I ended up going into the publishing world, also with a focus on photography. So I ended up, even though at the time I didn't think I wanted to take over the family business, I really was orbiting around it and doing things like very much in that realm. And then my husband and I wanted to open up a contemporary art gallery, and we were living in New York at the time. So we moved to Los Angeles, and Paper Chase used to have two conjoined storefronts. And one of the storefronts was where we housed our offset presses. My father had sold our offset presses because the industry had really shifted for him and he was focusing on digital printing. So one of the storefronts was empty. So my husband and I took over the space and opened up a gallery and a publishing imprint. And while we were there, that's when my father decided he wanted to sell the company. And I realized at that moment, oh, actually, I'm very passionate about print. And I've been working in and around print for a really long time. And the publishing arm of the gallery was the most successful component of the gallery. And I saw firsthand how much interest there was in printed matter. And so my husband and I said, no, don't sell it. And we took over. And that was in 2009.
Very interesting way to get into printing.
Yeah.
So you really didn't quite have a choice. That's what I'm kind of getting, even though all the creative stuff orbiting around it, as you said, but it was still all print related.
Yeah, it's true. I think I was definitely raised with a deep appreciation for the medium. And we would go out to restaurants and my father would be commenting on the menus and the collateral, or he did a lot of printing for different museums and art fairs and galleries. So we would go to different events and see all of the materials in use. And I was definitely impacted by that. Looking back on it now, it seems so obvious that I ended up taking over the business. But at the time I was 28 years old and I was just like, thought I was doing something different, but in actuality, it was just a variation on a theme.
Yeah, it was ink on something a little bit different than what Dad did.
Totally, 100%.
So, what role for you? I mean, you mentioned you went to school for photography. What role did your formal education and some of your informal education play in your choice to continue down that printing path?
I would say that a lot of what I studied was about actually visual literacy, not so much just photography, but what language exists in visuals to begin with. And so I think that it trained me to see things through a specific type of framework. And that framework really lends itself to print and to understand composition and color in a very specific way that really is photographic in nature, but it really is print. And it taught me an appreciation of that language. I call on that every day. Every day, I invariably have a conversation with somebody that really uses that vocabulary. But informally, growing up in the shop, seeing my parents run the company, understanding their work ethic, we had a lot of multi-decade employees in the business, understanding the nature of those relationships. That really, I didn't get a business degree. So to take over the company, I really was relying on that informal education of my upbringing into how to run the actual nuts and bolts of the business, because that was a huge challenge. I understood the value proposition of the company. I understood how meaningful it was that we were making such a beautiful product. I understood the integrity of print and how impactful that can be as a medium, but I knew nothing about running a business. So that's really where my informal education of growing up in the shop and just proximity to my parents was, that was what I was going off of.
So, would you say that your parents were probably some of your biggest role models?
Oh, yeah. This is another thing that when I was younger, I would have said, no, 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 I'm nothing like them. But the reality is, I'm very much admired my parents. They built an incredible business. They really did it through their own ingenuity and hard work and extreme dedication and many, many, many hours. And I understand now the level of intensity that's required in running the company because I've done it firsthand for 15 years. So I didn't know at the time really what it took to create the business that they created. I very much admire them. And I really, they built a business that to me is so meaningful that it's given me a lot to take over the company and to see it through this next phase, its new transition into the Hemlock Group. And it feels like a very meaningful experience because it harkens back to the things that I was raised, the values I was raised with and the environment I was raised in.
So, you found a good home for it.
Yeah, I think I found the best possible home ever for it. When I was looking for a partner or a parent company for the business, I was reluctant to approach other printing companies because you're hard pressed to find young ethical leadership, ingenuity, forward thinking, just future thinking. A lot of printing companies are kind of in this world of, oh, it ain't what it used to be, or this is a dying model, or, and they kind of all just seem, we'll just take all the jobs we can get until we can't get those, till everything's digital or whatever. And that's depressing.
It's very
um,
depressing.
yeah. And it's not how I saw the business. My experience of the business firsthand was people love print, and actually even more so now because of the prevalence of digital media. There's this resurgence in interest and support of the medium. So when I told about Hemlock through a vendor of mine, actually, and I started looking into the company, this was about 8 years ago, and it just felt so akin to Paper Chase. Also second generation family run, strict environmental standards, a focus on high quality production, not the printing company for every job in the world, but the printing company for when the quality of the job is tantamount to success, the quality really matters, or there's a vision that's really trying to be conveyed and not diluted or watered down by the limitations in production or in customer service.
They
So I
weren't
felt
beat
like
down by the environment of the commoditization of the commercial print side.
100%. Exactly. Exactly. And that is, I have yet to meet another company in this industry that's like that. You talk to a lot of different printing companies, so you probably have some sense about who else might be in the same boat. But for me, I was like, this is a total anomaly. Wow,
Yeah.
there's two of us that are excited about the future of print. And it was very complementary because historically our focus was on shorter, smaller runs, whereas Hemlock was on larger, higher volume work. So it felt like there was a way for us to come together that would keep both businesses whole and enhanced by the partnership and or the acquisition. And a year and a half into it, I'm thrilled. I love it. They are very supportive, very transparent, lots of integrity. The way they operate their business is solid. I really solid.
Yeah, it really is then a synergy between the two companies and a
Totally.
real partnership. You're complementing each other. It's not you're replacing, because a lot of times when companies come together, you have, well, we already have this division, you have that division, we can only keep one.
Yep. I would also say that this is where e-commerce comes in, but Paper Chase's focus historically has been in the strengthening of our e-commerce channel as our main sales channel. So we were never a traditional model in that we didn't have sales reps pounding the pavement and getting
Feet on the
there.
street. Yep.
Exactly. So we relied on our website to be our 24/7 sales rep, but we understood that we were selling a very high quality, usually business to business or a professional grade service to anybody that has access to the internet. So we had to really hone in on how to translate the selling of that type of work to the general public. And we put all of our eggs into that basket. That was like, that's our focus. I think that was a big part of the appeal on the Hemlock side because that's a sales channel they have not. Historically, they get leads through their website, but in terms of actually purchasing print online, I think there was a lot of excitement about the possibility of bringing this model to the group of businesses, which to me, I'm excited about too, because we get to do it at a totally different scale than we would have otherwise.
And it's interesting because a lot of companies, they might have a web presence, they might have something, but a lot of them don't put the e-commerce piece into it. They don't have some kind of storefront that is open 24/7, that people can get some, in some ways, it's standardized jobs. Because once you
Exactly.
get to the more customized, you really need to talk to somebody to talk through some of them. Like I can't see a vehicle wrap ever going through a online storefront because
Yeah,
every car is just so different. Every vehicle is so different. Every model of every vehicle is so different from year to year, even. That's a little
yeah,
harder to, I think, to do something just online. But
totally.
a lot of those other things, you're talking about high-end gallery photography, talking about some other things, that's very much easy to do online as a
Yeah,
transaction.
yeah. I mean, what ends up happening in reality is that the actual transactions on the site make up only the minority percentage of the work. What the site really serves as is a vehicle for onboarding other jobs, custom jobs. So it's great that if you happen to need business cards or 4x6 flat cards or a notebook or whatever, you could just go and order something online. But maybe you're working for an organization that wants to do a custom cookbook for the general public and run a few thousand of them, or you want to do a deck of tarot cards, or you have any type of retail merchandise you're trying to make. The site becomes this vehicle for them to connect with us. So they see all of this incredible product photography. The photography always features really stellar clientele. There's nice videos with the family and old pictures, and they really get a sense of who we are through the website, which I think is that's really where the power is in how it serves its purpose. And we get incredible leads that come in through the site that we've never had contact with these companies or individuals before, and they culminate into these really beautiful projects just because they go onto the site, they see that, oh, wow, this company looks so nice. And clearly they have a focus on quality and our values are aligned. And I can trust that they're going to do good work.
And maybe they start looking at the products that you guys are producing and what they can get if they wanted to just do something quick. But well, if they can do that, I wonder if they can do this. And then you
Exactly.
start the conversation with them.
Exactly. Exactly.
So for you through the years, you've probably noticed that the print industry tends to skew a little bit male.
A lot of it.
I was trying to be nice, especially commercial print. Some other areas, it varies. Packaging is definitely heavy male. Some other areas tend to be a little bit better split. So, what challenges have you faced as a woman entering a mostly male-dominated manufacturing printing industry.
One thing that's really interesting is that because paper chase historically was geared more towards short run, any high volume work that we would get, which was a lot, we invariably would work with a network of vetted vendors that we've
Mhm.
had. And actually, many of them are vendors that are holdovers from my parents' days. So multi-decade relationships with these wonderful LA institutions. Out of all of them, and there were a lot, the only one was owned by a woman. It was a bindery. They've since sold, so she doesn't own it anymore. But I used to find this like, I would just, can we bind it with this company? Can we send it? I would try to push projects in that direction because I loved how kindred her and I
Mhm.
were. And it was such an anomaly to me to be able to just talk to another woman on the line. I was raised very much, my father, his mother was a business owner, and she and my grandfather had ailing health. So my grandmother was really the breadwinner and the leader of the household. So my father was really raised in a matriarchal environment. And we had two daughters, no sons. And I think that he really tried to instill those types of values in us. My father and my mother, too, are very much big focus on career. Don't make sacrifices for your career for personal relationships. Whether or not I agree with that is a different story, but like
Mhm.
there was very much a focus on you must be independent, you must pursue your passions, don't be scared. Didn't feel very girly, or like whatever that old antiquated sense of what girliness is,
Yep.
didn't feel like that. So I relished being a female leader. I love being the, you running the okay. Yeah, I love being that person. I wish I had more women that I dealt with. Now at Hemlock it's a different story because there are a lot of women in leadership at Hemlock, so I look around the room and I see a lot of familiar faces, which I enjoy. But pre Hemlock, I think I relished in being the only woman. Sometimes I would get a kick out of like if my husband and I would go, we would visit a vendor, or I remember one time we were going to look at a piece of property to potentially move the business. And the people we were dealing with would only talk to him. And I'd
Yep.
be in my mind going, I'm the one that writes the checks here. Like, nobody's talking to me. They don't think that I'm the one, but I know I'm the one. I don't take it personally. I find it more novel than anything else, but I certainly really enjoy being in the Hemlock group where there are a lot of women in leadership and a lot of really incredible women at every level of the operation. And it's a joy to work with them.
How important is it to have those women in those leadership roles?
Oh, it's vital. I mean, I think that first and foremost, roles should be filled by whomever is most qualified. I
Hmm.
don't think it's an arbitrary, just pick a woman because it's better to have a woman. I don't believe in arbitrarily assigning roles just based on gender.
Or to fill a checkbox?
Yeah, yeah, that doesn't feel, that is its own thing. But my experience in working with other women, there's no ego involved. Women very much are, they have strong coming together muscles. Like they're very good at pooling together, supporting one another when support is needed, or being autonomous when autonomy is needed. There's also just like they're not shy. They're not shy with their feelings. So if they're excited for you, they're going to show their excitement. If they're working through something difficult, they're going to express that they're working through something difficult. But it never comes from a place of ego. It really comes from a place of like the collective and trying to just get a job done well and do it together with a little friction or obstacles as possible. I've noticed that attitude is just very common with when I work with women. It's very
Hmm.
common. It's not a hard dynamic to find. So for that reason, I do really, your question was what I get out of working with women at Hemlock.
And why is it important for women to be in leadership roles?
I think that bringing that type of perspective it just makes a leadership role that much more dynamic. And I think that being homogenous in any way is never great. So I believe in the idea of bringing other voices to the table because it makes everybody better. Everybody
Hmm.
benefits from opposing viewpoints and different approaches. So for that reason, there should be more of everybody at the table. Women, men, whatever color, whatever economic class, whatever sexual orientation, we all benefit from that kind of diversity.
We've all lived a different life. We have all different experience
Yeah,
and all have a unique perspective that
exactly.
sometimes we might be blinded to because we've never experienced that before
Yeah,
or understand that before. So to have those differing or diverse voices at the table, I think it makes companies stronger.
I totally agree.
But how do we get that to be the printing industry?
I think that there is a bigger question that is, how does the print industry continue to attract talent,
Mhm.
young talent, new talent? And I think that goes back to what we were talking about a little while ago of the prevailing attitude among many printers of not being future facing and not
Mhm.
being, maybe not always being optimistic. I think that lacking that kind of optimism or that emphasis on the future and growth is really what will stymie the print industry from attracting creative talent. I think that there should be, I don't know how you shift the paradigm of getting print to not, don't think of itself as a dinosaur.
Mhm.
Like the idea of print, like I just think everything will be printed in the future. Will it be ink on paper? Probably not, but everything, your food will be printed, your consumables will be, everything will be some form of print. And the idea that printing companies feel like there isn't a future is what makes the industry starved for talent. I also think that the industry suffers from there not being enough graphic communications programs in colleges anymore. And I think that would be a real pipeline of talent if there were more programs. There's one here in Southern California. I think there's one in upstate New York, but I think that's, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think there's only a couple left.
There are some other programs, but they are few and far between. A lot of them have closed, or if they've not closed, they've definitely changed the focus of the programs. You can look at Clemson for their packaging school. So, I mean, that is still a very strong packaging print focused, but RIT has changed its major. That's in upstate New
Yeah,
York. There's Cal Poly. There's a couple others in California. There's a couple others scattered throughout, but they're not even offering it on the vocational level in many
right,
cases.
right. And
In the
that's
trade
that's too
schools.
bad.
Hmm.
That's too bad because all of the printing companies I know are always trying to hire people.
Always.
Yeah.
And I think you pointed out two very interesting things. First, obviously, that it's been a struggle to get qualified people. And I know a number of companies that I've talked to have just started getting good people that are humble and trainable. They've moved away from trying to find somebody that has any history in print or has
Yeah.
any kind of background in print because
Yeah.
they're not finding them because the schools
Yeah.
aren't pushing them out any longer.
Yeah.
Or if they are, it's one, and then you have 100 companies that need that one person. They have their pick.
Yeah. My father used to always say, hire for personality, train for skill. And I think that that's very true. We historically have only had a few people that have been on our team that have had extensive print backgrounds. And obviously, the value that they bring is enormous. And the two team members in particular that I'm thinking of are really like backbone team members of our company. Like they are the core of who Paper Chase is and now who Paper Chase is inside of the Hemlock group. I think one way to solve or help solve the problem would be if more graphic design programs emphasized knowledge about print and presented these aspiring designers with print as a potential career path. Because there's certainly no shortage in graphic design students around the country or around the world. That seems to be like a very much a growing field where more and more people are interested in doing it. Design in general, I feel, is becoming more and more democratized. More just regular people want to have something that's nicely designed. We're so inundated by visual culture. People have more standards now around design than they used to. So taking advantage of that somehow would probably be good. But I think that just a lot of the programs are not presenting this as a viable career opportunity to students. And that's a shame because there are a lot of printing companies in America and they're all hiring. I can only speak for Hemlock and Paper Chase, but these are great companies that offer wonderful benefits and they run their business with a lot of integrity and support. And that's not always easy to find
Yeah.
with employers. So I certainly wish schools would promote the idea a bit more because it feels very viable for students in this realm.
One thing that I found very interesting, I was talking with a graphic designer last year, and she was discussing her career and her training to become a graphic designer. And one of the things she mentioned that she was missing was the school, the graphic design school, the program that she was involved, didn't teach them anything about print. They taught them how to design all these things, but not necessarily how to design to be printed
Mm,
commercially. And she goes, that she had to learn on the job.
that's crazy.
It's like, that's just like one of the missing, it's not hard. You're talking about what does a printer need with bleed and with all of those other things that can easily be incorporated, but that was never part of the conversation for them. It was really just the look and the feel, not the actual output.
As somebody who I feel like my own undergraduate experience was very philosophical and about the ideas of imagery and the meaning of it all. And then I remember upon graduation, I studied the head of the department who was my mentor, Stephen Shore. I remember going into Stephen's office. I finished my senior project. It was time to it was like 1 week till graduation. And I was like, Stephen, what do I do? Like, how do I get a job? And how does this work? And what
Mm-hmm.
kind of jobs can I get? And I remember he handed me at that time, because this was 20 years ago, he handed me the printed student handbook. And there was just a list of a couple galleries that would accept art to put in their flat files. And he was like, here you go. And it's like, okay, I guess I'll just have to figure this out on my own. But that the kind of the practical applications is what's missing, right?
Yeah,
Sounds like that with
exactly.
the designers too. It's like, where are the practical applications of all the ideas are beautiful, and everybody deserves an opportunity to go to college and ponder the meaning of life and the meaning of whatever your passions, and think about things in a more esoteric and non-practical way. But at some point, come your senior year, second semester, it's time to start talking about how to make a living and how you can go about translating all of the incredible ideologies you've absorbed into something that will help you pay your rent.
Which is something that's needed. Otherwise, we're just going to have all the kids coming back home and living in their parents' basement from now
Yeah.
to eternity, which
Yeah.
unfortunately is starting to happen too.
Yeah.
One of the other interesting things that you had said was in talking about some of the commercial printers that they don't have that forward-looking attitude.
Yeah.
How do we fix that? Like you said, that's one of those other problems. How do we fix it so that way their cup is now half full instead of half empty? Can we fix that?
I think one thing that could be really interesting would be if, like, we were members of PIA, the Print Industry Association, for 40 years.
Mm-hmm.
I don't I mean, no shade to PIA, but it should be like TED conferences. Like, it should be like inspiring ideas around the evolution of the industry, diversity and representation, forward thinking opportunities. I feel historically the organization's quite conservative. They're really geared towards a specific type of business model and development of that model. And it's just not, everything is upside down in our world and will just continue to be more upside down as automation becomes more prevalent. So I think that you probably need a professional association that's more embraces youthful ideas, embraces new technologies, can be a voice to help raise the high water mark of what growth and expectations could be like. I think that would be helpful. I think also, probably from company to company, you need to look at succession. Who are the people that are going to fill the shoes of the current leaders? Are they young? What world do they come from? What is their personal experience? Did they grow up with print? Are they excited about print? Or are they just approaching this as like a business?
It's a
Maybe
job.
yeah, which is fine. It's fine. It is a job, but you're not going to bring that exuberance to it if you don't feel that within yourself. So I think the industry, it would be wonderful if there was some way, like maybe around PIA, but some way to get more collective enthusiasm out of the industry. Just maybe thinking about broadening the idea of what print means. It's like I keep going back to like everything's going to be printed. Like hospitals are going to print skin grafts and like everything will be literally printed.
Why not?
Maybe we need to start hiring futurists at these companies. Maybe PIA needs, you look at all of these, and I'm saying this from Los Angeles, but all of these movie studios here, they literally have futurists on staff. They literally have people who are there to talk to them about what the future might be like and to help give contours to the ideas around like, oh, I'm setting a movie in 2100. What will it look like? That's the futurist function in that setting. But maybe in the print industry, it could be like, oh, we should start looking at different types of equipment and expanding the way we think about what print means so that it becomes more all encompassing, because who is better positioned to make this leap into other aspects of the industry than the people who already understand how to get one substrate onto another substrate. This is the perfect workflow to take on like the different print outputs that will exist now and in the future. So hire more futurists. That's my solution.
And tell us how to do more to get more ink on more things.
Yeah. And I think culture is moving in that direction though anyway. I mean, you look at young people and they love print. We work all of these, we exhibit at different book fairs around the country, and just the enthusiasm that we see is totally palpable. So really taking advantage of that. Printers need to be better positioned in order to take advantage of that.
And it's interesting, like the older generations are embracing the digital in terms of smartphones and whatnot, but yet the newer generations, they're digital natives and they're taking to direct mail, they're taking to books. So it's a weird kind of switch for some of those generations.
Yeah, I think across all generations, we're all experiencing digital fatigue. And I think that the pandemic really sealed that deal. And I think that I'm very much obsessed with the idea of tactility and what the physical environment brings that the digital environment does not. And it is fulfilling in a way that digital will never be fulfilling. And young people are very attuned to those feelings. They really understand that. They feel it very concretely and deeply. So I think riding that wave is really important, because what we do has so much meaning and so much integrity, and it's so beautiful, and the craft is so beautiful, and the community around it is so beautiful. And the way publications bring people together it just gives a voice to things in a way that doesn't exist anywhere else. So I'm very inspired by that. So trying to get that to be more the norm in this industry and allow other people to also feel that inspiration. I think I feel that way because I'm on the ground at these events and I'm seeing people's face. They pick up the books and I see their faces, and it's like wonderful. I think that would make lots of other printing companies feel very excited about what they did if they were out there in the public rather than just being with their clients. They were in the public, really seeing the firsthand reaction to the work that they were producing.
No, I definitely agree with that. So wrapping up our conversation for today is my favorite question that I've been asking everybody. Based on what you know now, so based on your history, your career path in the industry, what advice would you give to yourself if you were just starting in the industry today?
It's a marathon, not a sprint. I think when I first started, it felt like, oh, there's so much to do to right this ship. And it felt like I was operating on all on all fronts, which is not a sustainable way to operate. So I think if I could have told myself anything, it would have been that. Just really, this is going to take a while. This is you need your endurance here. So really focus on a sustainable level of engagement and in the work, because this industry especially, like, and I watched it with my own father. It's so challenging. Every day is so challenging that it can really exhaust you. So you have to be mindful of that from the get up.
You need to pace yourself.
Yes, exactly.
Because
Pace
we want to
yourself.
be in it for the long haul.
Exactly. I get so much pleasure out of this work, and I don't think I would have access to that pleasure if I was too worn down.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Well, Nicole, it has been an absolute pleasure chatting with you today. So thank
Likewise.
you for taking some time from your afternoon to chat about the industry, your journey. I really appreciate it.
Likewise, Denise, it's been really nice to chat with you. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you again.